What is going on between Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies? He pulled no punches in his pointed comments about the coaching staff after the team's loss to the Los Angeles Lakers, and it just so happens that I was in Memphis covering this game. So, got some important context. For example, did the Grizzlies really prevent their coach from speaking to the media so he wouldn't have to answer questions about Ja? Is that really how this all played out? And an important interaction that was going on in the crowd that I think is being missed with this whole situation. And finally, should the Grizzlies just wash their hands of this whole mess and just finally trade Ja Morant? What could that look like? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. All right, so the Memphis Grizzlies took on the Los Angeles Lakers. It was round one of the group stage of the NBA Cup tournament, and the Grizzlies wind up losing 117 to 112. It was a pretty close game for much of the way. Ja Morant didn't play particularly well, scored just 8 points, 7 assists, 1 steal, but also only played 31 minutes. Shot 0 for 6 from 3, which is pretty gross, and overall did not look like Ja Morant. Was not living in the paint the way that we know he can, was not the super explosive, unstoppable player that he can be. So, what was going on here? Well, there's a lot in play here, and Ja Morant had some very pointed comments, but before we even get to his comments themselves, one of the things that's being missed here is that during the second quarter, the Grizzlies made a big run. In fact, they won the second quarter 42-24. They dominated the Lakers. JJ Redick, head coach of the Lakers, was not happy at halftime with the team. Talked about said he didn't raise his voice. Austin Reeves told us that maybe he kind of did. He definitely wasn't a normal speaking voice. Anyway, he made his displeasure known at halftime. The Lakers played much better in the second half, and off they went from there, and they ultimately got the win. But that big second quarter run, that was done primarily with Ja Morant on the bench. In fact, sitting there on press row, I even turned to Kobe Price, who was sitting next to me, and mentioned, wow, the Grizzlies are doing this without Ja Morant. He was not in the game, and the Grizzlies went on this huge run. They were dominating the Lakers on the offensive glass. They were knocking down shots. They were moving the ball freely. They were playing very, very well. And so I think that's important to recognize in this situation. So in the fourth quarter, when the Grizzlies are trying to catch back up and trying to get back into the game, I think with that context, it's more understandable for the coaching staff to say, look, Ja Morant's a superstar, but he's not looked great. The threes that he's missed have been bricks, and they've been wide open. He's not having a great night. And we have a group that was playing great, and it didn't include Ja Morant. So let's give that group, the non-Ja rotation, another chance in the fourth quarter. And so considering the magic that they found in the second quarter, I think it makes more sense for them to have Ja sitting on the sidelines while they are trying to get back into the game. Again, Ja wasn't playing particularly well, and they had a group that played great. Was it a flash in the pan? Yeah, as it turned out, it wasn't something that was sustainable for that group. But I think that's two important bits of information to understand why would the coaching staff not put a superstar like Ja Morant back into the game. But Ja was not happy with that, and the Memphis crowd was not happy with that. There were several people a few rows behind me, and I was right there, one row back from the court along press row, very loudly yelling at the Grizzlies bench. And you are close enough from there to where the Grizzlies bench can hear you. They can hear what you're saying. They can hear what you're talking about. Yelling at the coach at Isolo to put Ja Morant into the game. So Ja is stewing on the side that he's not in the game, that this is the fourth quarter, they need to catch up, and he's not in. And the crowd is agreeing with him, is confirming, like, yes, Josh should be in the game. And I think that makes him even more upset. He did, as he walked past us to check in, he said something to the crowd, and it was something that was said in a tone that caught our attention, but unfortunately we couldn't understand exactly what he said. We all of us sitting right there in press row all asked each other, what did he just say? Because it was unintelligible over the noise of the crowd and the arena and everything else. But he responded to the people in the crowd that had been yelling for the coach to sub him in. So then he subbed in, and he did nothing in the final 5 minutes and was kind of pouting out there on the floor. After the game, this is what Ja Morant had to say. This is from DeMichael Cole, who does a great job covering the Grizzlies, said when Morant was asked about what went wrong and if he could have done anything differently, his response was short but pointed. Go ask the coaching staff. Go ask him. They had a whole spill in there. Him being Coach Isolo. When he was asked about his energy, shared another pointed response. Go ask the coaching staff why. Now, I was not there for this. During this portion of Ja's interview, I was over on the Lakers side of things. In the Lakers press room. So I was not actually there for this conversation. Again, when Morant was asked if he believed he should have played more, he gave a similar response. What went wrong against the Lakers? I kind of already explained what had happened there for Ja and him subbing in late. While I was not there for this, I think I have an understanding of what happened here. So DeMichael Cole said, we didn't get to ask the coach what happened with Ja Morant. Ja was ready to speak quickly. Grizzlies coach Isolo was not in the press conference room initially when Ja was ready to talk. After Ja's 55-second interview, we walked to the press conference room. Isolo was walking out as we came in. Okay, so having been to FedEx Forum in Memphis many times, I understand what happened. And I think jumping to the conclusion that the Grizzlies on purpose tried to prevent their coach from speaking to the media because they didn't want him to respond to the Ja situation. Not only is that most likely, and again, I was not standing there myself for this part. I was over interviewing Lakers players, but I think not only is that unlikely, it's also just about impossible. So here's what happened. The press conference room and the locker room are two different places, obviously. And what tends to happen after a game is as soon as the game ends, the press for both sides, both teams, they go back into their press conference rooms, and then you'll get a coach. The coach will come in, talk, and then you'll get anywhere between 2 to 4 players will come in and do their pressers. And then after that, you get a chance to go into the locker room and talk with some of the players as well. If you follow my coverage over on Lakers Nation, that's why you've got JJ Redick at the podium in the press conference. You've got Luka Doncic at the podium in the press conference in the Lakers press room in Memphis. And then there's also a video up of Austin Reeves at his locker, because we talked to the players in the press conference room and then went over to the locker room, talked to the players in there. That's the way it typically goes. What happened was, based on this story and kind of understanding the layout of the building and everything, the media all goes into the press conference room. And typically while we're in the press room, there's the Grizzlies press room is separate from the Lakers or the visitor press room. While we're in there, the players are doing what they need to do, getting their stuff ready and showering some of them and doing all of that, right? And so we're in the press room. Sometimes the coach isn't there right away because the coach will go into the locker room and be talking to the team. That's not an uncommon thing at all. And so you may be waiting for, I don't know, sometimes 5 minutes, something like that, 5-10 minutes, just hanging out, waiting for the coach to come in and start the official press conferences. So the Grizzlies press was in there, in their press room. Coach Isolo wasn't there. They got word that Ja Morant's ready to talk. Normally, the guys in the locker room aren't ready to talk immediately. So they went, oh, okay, well, coach isn't here yet. Let's go into the locker room because we don't want to miss Ja. We'll go talk to Ja, and then we'll go back. And we'll go back to the press conference room, and then by then, hopefully, coach will be there. And when they went to go talk to Ja, that's when Isolo just so happened to be making his way over to the press room. So they're talking to Ja. He does this really quick interview. And at the same time, Isolo, as Ja is saying these pointed comments, so Isolo couldn't have known about Ja's comments. Now, could he have known that Ja was upset? Yeah, because it sounds like something was said in that locker room between the coaching staff and Ja. Conversations were had, obviously. But while the press went over, the media went over to the locker room to talk to Ja and got these comments from him, Isolo went into the press conference room and went, hey, where is everybody? Grizzlies PR was in there. They still are going to film it. They're going to record it. And so Grizzlies PR just asked him one question. He talked a little bit about the game. And then since there was no one there to ask any other questions, they said, okay, well, that's it. And see you later. And by that point, the media had finished talking to Ja, was making their way back over, but the press conference was already done. So they missed him. It was unfortunate timing, but knowing the cadence of things and how it all plays out, I don't think we could say anything nefarious happened here. Like, so I'm seeing people that have criticized the Grizzlies for this. I don't know that there's anything nefarious going on here because, again, Ja Morant was ready to speak way before he typically would be. And understandably, the media didn't want to miss him. So anyway, that's how it went down in Memphis, or how I believe that situation played out, and why it kind of appears that they on purpose tried to keep him from answering any questions from the press. Now, that said, is it fortuitous for Memphis? Yeah. I mean, could they have known that he was upset about, and maybe had some kind of confrontation with Ja? Sure, potentially. But Ja being ready to speak that quickly, I don't think was something that was planned out. And Islo being missed by the media, I don't think that was planned. But anyway, what does this mean moving forward for Memphis? Because clearly Ja's not happy. The Memphis crowd was not happy that Ja was not playing. And keep in mind that this coach, Islo, is the one who replaced Taylor Jenkins, who got fired in part because Ja wasn't happy with his offense, which is, by the way, a similar style offense to what the Miami Heat are now running. And they've been putting up a ton of points around the NBA. And shocking the NBA by not really running as many pick and rolls or hardly any at all, which is in direct contrast to what everybody else is doing. But Ja Morant was not happy in that offense last year with Taylor Jenkins. Part of the reason why they moved on from him with 9 games left in the season and switched over to Islo was to get the offense back to being one that would make Ja more happy. And now you've got Islo, and Ja's still not happy with the coaching staff. So what if the Memphis Grizzlies just say, well, the common denominator here is Ja? We already moved on from Des Bane. We knew the Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ja combo wasn't going to work. What if you rip the Band-Aid off and you just decide, fine, forget it, we're going to trade Ja too? Let's take a look at what a Ja Morant trade would look like. We'll get to that in 1 minute. Don't go anywhere. Ever hear the Sleeper app? Here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats. A news feed, this is so important for me. You can get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams. A real-time chat to allow you to engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. So download the #1 sports app today. Experience it for yourself. When you use promo code Bulletin, you get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And by the way, they do have a phenomenal promo going on right now as well. Free $20 entry. Go check that out. No deposit required. $20 entry for free. Go check them out. Use the link in the description down below, and that promo code is Bulletin. Okay, so let's say the Grizzlies decide we're going to trade Ja Morant, our superstar, the guy that we've been building around. He says he never wanted to be the face of the NBA and all of that, and that's fine. But 26-year-old guard, you decide you're going to trade Ja Morant. Obviously, he's got a history of having some problems in the NBA. I'm not going to go into every single, the suspensions and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, he is, when he's at his best, a breathtaking athlete. He does things that very few other players can do. Incredible speed, quickness, explosiveness, all of that. As a player, he is a bit of a challenge to build around. And this is where I think it could be difficult trading Ja if they do decide to go down this path. You look at his career, 31% from 3, 0 of 6 from 3 tonight against the Lakers. And frankly, most of those were nowhere close. It was one brick after another. And he's shooting now on the season. He's shooting just 19% from 3. So not great from Ja Morant. You can also see the minutes played just at 28, 30 minutes played per game last season. I know he's not super thrilled with that either. He wants to see the minutes go up overall. Numbers looking a bit down for Ja over the course of the season as well. So that's a complicating factor in that most teams don't want a point guard that can't shoot. They don't want that. And Ja does some incredibly acrobatic things in the paint. He's an incredible talent. He's almost impossible to stay in front of. I do question how his game ultimately will age. Now, I don't think you have to worry about that too much at 26 years old, but Ja could be one of those guys who burns bright, and maybe he's not even burning that bright right now. And then if the shooting just never comes around for him, that he could fall off very, very quickly once he gets into his 30s, because you need that shooting to be there to prop up any kind of declining athleticism. You have to have the spacing that comes with that shooting on the offensive end. So I've got concerns about what Ja Morant is going to look like long term. Not right now, not at 26, but if you're going to give up a superstar level trade package to get Ja Morant and you want to make him your guy for the future, which is, I think, what Memphis would want to get, like as many assets as they possibly can for Ja, you've got to feel like this can be our guy for the next 10 years, or maybe a 2B guy, right? A second guy for the next 10 years. And if I'm another team, I would have real concerns about how Ja's game is going to age. He's not a particularly good defender, but offensively, he can do breathtaking things. And then on top of that, let's talk about the contract. Let's say the Grizzlies decide, all right, we're going to fully rip the Band-Aid off. We're going to trade Ja. $39 million this season, $42.1 million next season, $44.8 million the season after that. He is extension eligible next summer as well. Could that play into Ja's frustration? He knows that he's got potentially a contract extension coming next summer. He's going to have to play well enough for that. But 3 years remaining under contract. And a lot of NBA teams, they don't want any extra salary on their books unless they know it's for a positive value. And I don't know if Ja is a positive. I'll tell you what, Ja Morant shooting 19% from three is not a positive value. Ja Morant, the headache that he can be for a team, I don't know if it's worth it. I say it a lot, but is the juice worth the squeeze? And in the case of Ja Morant, he can do amazing things. He can put up big numbers. He can absolutely stuff a highlight reel full of just insane acrobatic plays in the paint. But if you're interested in winning basketball games and not winning highlight reels, Ja Morant is not your guy. Not right now. Now, the three-point shooting, maybe eventually it comes along. Maybe eventually Ja matures a little bit. Maybe eventually Ja's not making comments about the coaching staff. Because let's face it, Ja's been in enough trouble. He doesn't need to be the guy making comments about the coaching staff. He doesn't need to be saying these things. That's not going to go over well given his history. It would be different if it was coming from someone else. If it was coming from a veteran, a respected veteran who probably, again, isn't going to make these kind of emotional comments, pouty comments to the media about the coaching staff. They probably won't say that to begin with. But if it was to a point where the team really believed that the coaching staff was making a mistake, there's better ways to handle this than the way that Ja Morant did, because it's just going to create more negativity. Teams see that. Teams remember that. Teams that are looking to trade potentially for Ja Morant are going to say, yeah, we don't want that. That's a headache. We don't want to deal with that. So when I look at Ja's contract and I look at the way he's playing so far this season, I look at the shooting percentages. I look at what Ja Morant is. I look at what paying him this salary says about what Ja is going to be for whatever team he's on. And that is a superstar, a 1A or 1B guy. All of that gets factored in, I'm having a tough time coming up with a team that should trade for Ja Morant, even if the Grizzlies do decide to move him. And boy, that's a far cry from where we were a couple of years ago with him. But given the suspensions, given now he's calling out the coaching staff because they didn't play him in a game in which he wasn't playing all that well and another group had gone on a real run. It's not like everybody else was awful and Ja was great and the coaching staff just lost their minds. The other group went on a real run without him, and Ja couldn't hit anything. It's the job of the coaching staff to put a group out there that think can win. And if Ja's going to pout like this and blame it on the staff, and obviously some things were said behind closed doors, I'm not privy to all of that. But I think Memphis and Ja may be stuck with each other for now. Like if you're the Atlanta Hawks and you could just say, we don't know what our future is going to be with Trae Young, and you could flip Trae Young and turn him into Ja Morant, would you do that? If I'm the Grizzlies, I would do that in a heartbeat. If I'm the Hawks, I would not. I wouldn't be interested in that. I'd rather have Trey's contract at least expire and I could just pivot and move on if I didn't think the guy's the right fit. Now, hopefully Trey's okay, and obviously he's got that leg injury and all that. I'm saying a healthy Trae Young, but two point guards who play a different style, but are at least in a similar tier when they're at their best. And I would much prefer to have Trae over Ja Morant. I don't see the team, like, there are teams that need point guards. I don't think there are teams that need Ja Morant. Would Ja help the Houston Rockets? No. The Rockets need a point guard. Would Ja help them? No. I don't think you would. If I'm the Rockets and I've got good chemistry and I've got KD and I've got all this upside, I'm not adding Ja Morant to that. I'm not rocking the boat like that. If I'm the Dallas Mavericks and I'm waiting for Kyrie Irving to return, and my option is D'Angelo Russell at point guard, or I go give up stuff I really like, draft capital and everything, and go get Ja Morant, I'm not doing that. I'm not tethering Ja Morant to Cooper Flagg from here on out, the guy that's been suspended a bunch. I'm not doing that. So I think, look, we talk about no contract is untradeable. And we see it happen many times around the NBA, that contracts that get known as very, very bad deals and deals that nobody's going to want, they do still wind up getting moved. And maybe there's an unforeseen team that steps in here. But as talented as Ja is, as otherworldly as he can be, when you add up everything else, and now on top of all of that, coming off of this big uplifting game winner, the next game, he doesn't play so well, and he's making these comments. Even if a team needs a point guard, I just can't see anybody saying, yes, sign me up for that. Sign me up for 19% from three. Sign me up for, if I don't play my full allotment of minutes, rather than say, I need to play better, I'm going to take shots at the coaching staff. And look, again, there's pieces missing to this. I don't know the whole, I was there and I don't know the whole thing. There's pieces missing. Obviously, something happened in that locker room after Ja Morant left the floor, after the coaching staff left the floor. Something was said. What exactly that was, hopefully we'll find out. But these comments don't look great for Ja. These comments, not great for the Memphis Grizzlies, who have been having a okay season. They've been crushed by injuries already. Zach Edey, Jaren Jackson's dealt with stuff. Ja dealt with stuff in the preseason. Brandon Clark is out. You've got their big signing, Ty Jerome, of the offseason. He's out. Scottie Pippen Jr. out. In spite of all of that, it hasn't been all bad. But here we are, 5-6 games into the Grizzlies season, and Ja's already losing it with the coaching staff that was brought in because he didn't like the previous coaching staff? Not good. Not good at all. What should happen here? What needs to happen? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.